So each year heading into the season, you kind of know these are your guys. These are the best players on this football team for whichever football team. But when I think about the 2025 Georgia Bulldogs, when I think about this roster and heading into the season that's inching closer and closer, just what, 2 months away? Just under 2 months away now? It's harder to project who the best players on Georgia's football team are. So who are the Dogs, right? Who are the stars of this team? Who are the best players? There's kind of a consensus out there, right? When you look at mock drafts for the NFL in the future, when you look at All America lists, when you look at the college football video game, when you look at just what people are saying in the news cycle, you can kind of get an idea of which players are projected to be the best for the Georgia Bulldogs in 2025. So let's talk about it. Who are going to be the stars according to the consensus this year? Ryan Curley from Dawg Post talking about the best players on this Georgia football roster. For the most part, I kind of agree with these handful of guys. I do think that look, something I've talked about over the last few days is Georgia is relying on youth, right? A little bit more than it has in the past. It doesn't have as many older players that are staples of the football team. It's certainly not when you compare it to the last few years. And real quick before I get even more into it, make sure you are going to dogpost.com, checking out our newsletter, checking out everything going on over there, whether it be the magazine, some of the deals we have. Just click on an article and you'll see everything that's going on over there at dogpost.com. I'd really appreciate it. Someone that I want to start out with, let's talk about some defensive guys first. We'll go defense, and then we'll flip to the offensive side of the ball. But someone that I want to talk about that is starting to just gain momentum as this guy's going to be one of the best in the SEC. This guy's a potential first-round pick. All of that is Christian Miller, the defensive lineman, right? Interior defensive lineman, number 52. If you're not familiar with Christian Miller, he's entering year 4 of this football program. He had 27 tackles last year, 1.5 sacks. Last year was kind of the first year where he played significant time and he was a big part of the rotation. And now he's expected to be an even bigger part of the rotation, right? Because the last 2 seasons, this year Stackhouse and Warren Brinson and Zion Logan 2023, those were kind of their main pieces on the interior defensive line. Jordan Hall coming up as a true freshman and then a sophomore, and then he'll be a junior this year, right? So that's someone that has been added to the room along with Christian Miller. They're kind of expected to be those guys on the interior defensive line, but it's Miller who's gaining the attention. It's early, so I'm gonna be sipping on this. Miller's gotten a lot of attention, and I've seen his name in the first round of NFL mock drafts. I've seen his name like first team All SEC. I've seen his name like in a top 5 list of defensive linemen in the conference. And apparently in the leaked ratings for the video game, he's Georgia's highest ranked player with a 92 overall rating. If you're not familiar, it's out of 99. You don't really see players ranked 100, but they gave him a 92, right? And I've got the list of the players, and that's kind of similar to the consensus of who people think are the best players. So Miller is expected to take this step forward as what's likely a full-time starting role for him and be a menace on the interior defensive line. This is one where I push back a little bit and I say, hey, I think he's really talented. Hey, I think it can happen. But I'm not as confident as everyone else. And there's other players that I'd be more confident in to be one of the best players on this football team, as much as I think Miller's going to be a very important piece to what Georgia does. Let's go younger, right? KJ Bolden is the obvious answer. He is one of the fastest players on Georgia's football team. He's an instinctual safety. When you look at not just Georgia, but when you look across the landscape of college football, freshmen aren't the main class that starts, right? It's sophomores, juniors, seniors start more. Freshmen don't typically start, right? There are definitely plenty of examples out there and plenty of examples where the player is successful. And I would say last year, KJ Bolden as a true freshman for Georgia was a successful example. 59 tackles, a sack, an interception. He was a disruptive player for Georgia. He forced a fumble, right? So he's a guy who had counting stats and also was just out there. He was in the backfield. It's something that you noticed really early on against Clemson in that season opener, that KJ Bolden is ready, right? You didn't have to question that KJ Bolden is ready. He's expected to take a step forward. I think there's potential that he ends up kind of being maybe the best player on this Georgia football team, maybe at least the best player on this defense. And he's getting that type of attention. I think he's getting All-America attention the way that Malachi Starks did in year 2, the way that Caleb Downs has early on in his career, the way that these really good safeties do. And he's next in line to be Georgia's lead safety. We'll stick to defensive backs, and I've talked about him a little bit more over the last couple of days, so I won't talk about him as much. But Dalen Everett, when you talk about a guy that after this year will be a 3-year starter at cornerback in the SEC, who's had to deal with a lot of really good cornerbacks and has made an impact in championship games, Dalen Everett is certainly one of the best players on this team and someone that should be looked at as a potential star in the sport, at least a star for the Georgia Bulldogs. A senior that's returning, I think it's a huge get for Georgia to get him to return. I think it's important that he did so. And I think between him and KJ Bolden, Georgia will be just fine in the secondary this year. You know, I'll hit on the linebackers. Raylan Wilson and CJ Allen are going to be a tandem that is difficult to deal with. I think that CJ Allen, when you talk about kind of year 3 as a starter, year 2.5 as a starter, however you want to put it, he and Raylan Wilson are very, very good. And the entire linebacker room is going to be good. So the other one I would point out is potentially Ella Medozi, the transfer. A guy that had production last year in his sophomore year. What does he do when he gets to the SEC level? Georgia brought him in very swiftly during the spring portal window process, and I think that was because they need him and they want him to be out there and be good. So when you flip it around to the offensive side of the football, who are the players that are the consensus, really good ones, the best players on this Georgia football team? I'll tell you the number one. The number one that gets the most attention this offseason, breakout star, all this yada, yada, yada. Zachariah Branch. It's the transfer wide receiver from USC, Zachariah Branch. He is expected to be a big-time offensive weapon for Georgia. Now, I think he's got loads of talent. I think he's got loads of speed and shiftiness. I think he's going to be a big part of what Georgia does. I think people maybe have a little too high expectations for what he'll do, just because I don't think Georgia's going to feed him as much as others. But I do think it's a mistake not to get this guy 5 to 10 touches a game. When you talk about someone that can take it to the house and score every single time, 5 to 10 touches a game, then maybe you are at star wide receiver level. But he is, to me, the guy that people look at as this consensus best player on the offense. And then secondly would probably be running back Nate Frazier, right? And you look at all these people's lists, right? And these offseason lists, best running backs, best wide receivers. I've got the leaked video game numbers rolled in, and they're both high 80s overalls, right? So some of the better in the video game. It just kind of shows you what the general public thinks of them. Nate Frazier is, like KJ Bolden, a guy who played a lot and had to start a lot as a true freshman last year. And now they are expected to be a pillar of the football team, right? KJ Bolden expected to be a pillar of the defense, and now Nate Frazier a pillar of the offense. They brought in Josh McCray. I don't think they brought in Josh McCray to steal Nate Frazier's touches. I think Nate Frazier is clearly the guy that they want as the top running back this season. But the question will be, is he ready to be a star? And I feel like it's a question that I've kind of hit on a little bit this offseason. But that truly is something that would solve problems for Georgia. You have a superstar running back. You have a star running back. Things become much easier, right? I don't know if that's true or not, that they have that in Frazier, but they do have someone that I think has an opportunity to have a really big year and a really important year. If you ask me, Micah Morris, a senior guard, right, he has an opportunity to be Georgia's best offensive lineman. I think Oscar Dove can have a really good year. I don't know if superstar is the way I'd put it. I think Gunnar Stockton, obviously, the ceiling's probably higher than people realize. But the players I just talked about, those handful on defense and a couple on offense, those are players that people think are the stars for Georgia this coming season. I tend to agree with most of it. Do you agree with it? And I appreciate you watching. Make sure you're checking out the links in the description of this video down below. Thank you.